George to come in. But Chris, mate, good to finally meet.
Mate, thank you for having me on.
Mate,
genuinely.
My pleasure. I'm glad you touched base with me.
Yeah.
And it was funny when I started looking through old DMs.
Yes, yeah.
And to give people a bit of context, I can't really remember what the fuck we were talking about or what it was for. It might have been some promos or whatever being sent, but you sent me a picture of like a football.
Yeah.
Or like a penny floater.
So I've got, I honestly, when I obviously scrolled up, I've got no idea what that was about, by the way. Still. I don't know what that could have been.
It doesn't make any sense.
What was it? Was it about 5 years ago? 5-6 years ago?
It was 2019, so it was before everything kicked off.
Yeah.
So I was still very much in the mix of like doing music.
But generally, I have no idea why I would send you a picture of a football.
It must have been something I posted. I've been looking through. Yeah, it's just a picture of an Adidas football.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. And you said, send you one of these bad boys and I can get an album deal. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, mate?
Yeah. I mean, I must have been, was I sending you some music or something like that? It might have been something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But that was 2019. So I can't remember the conversation. And you know, like on social media, people like slip into DMs to like comment on a story or something. And you don't remember. It just brushes past. And then I remembered your name and I was like, why the fuck do I remember his name? And then I went to my other page because you messaged us on the Bear Chat page.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's fucking weird.
Maybe I must have been sending you some music. That must have been what it was. And then maybe I thought, if I send him this cool thing about football, he might listen to it or something. Like, I don't know what it was.
Anyway,
it's something like that.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's good.
But we have spoken. We have had a chat before.
We have had a chat
about football.
Like, I have a football, and none of us have a fucking clue what it was for. But yeah, I've been watching you kind of just become much more present on social media, especially through. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the videos you did. I think it might have been you do a lot of these, but like flashback things where you go through loads of samples. Mm-hmm. And what I want to ask is, what brought you to do that? Like, what was it that attracted you to that style? Because this is very you, and you've managed to kind of find it and just smash it.
It might have been This Is the 90s video. That was this video I did.
Yes, it was. Yeah, the 90s one.
That one really changed the game for me. Yeah.
When was that? When did you do that?
That was, I want to say, I think it was late last year. So November, December last year.
Got millions of...
so I think it's about 15 million on my profile, but obviously with all the reshares that obviously we can't really keep track of, like that one just really went insane. Like, that really changed the game.
And then they'll reshare it. So you can't actually track how many times.
Who knows? Okay. Like when people ask like how many views it's got, I don't know. I mean, because the amount of the reshares and stuff that it has. But that video was, I think, the one that most people have seen. Yeah, that's the one that sort of really like set my stall out and really took off and kind of changed the game for me. But I think, if I can start at the beginning.
I was going to say, for a little bit of context, because some of our viewers aren't actually just music lovers anymore. I've got like a massive range of people who listen. For a bit of context, who the fuck are you?
I can do that. I can answer that.
Yeah, let's start from the top.
Well, so I'm from Chelmsford in Essex, and just outside of London, if you don't know. And come from a family of musicians. So both my parents they're retired now, but they were professional musicians. So music's like in the blood.
Wicked. Like, what sort of musicians?
Dad's a guitarist, mum's a pianist. So it's like, music is sort of in the family, like it was going to be music for me, And I, growing up, then I got to around I was learning music obviously through my parents. I went to music school and that sort of thing when I was like 11, 12, 13 something. And then my mum used to take me to school every morning, and she bought for the car a CD which was Ibiza Classics from 1995 to 2005, and it had all the iconic classic records on it. So Robert Miles Children, Darude Sandstorm, the Freemasons, Martin Solveig, Spiller, Groovejet. All these tunes, right?
The best one.
I can go on. The list goes on, right? Yeah. And she used to play it every morning on the way to school. And she used to dance like in the car seat, like jump around, like, you know, to all the records. And obviously when you see your mum doing that, like, and the happiness that it gives her, that for me at that moment, I was like, it just leaves a mark in you, right? You're just like, suddenly, you know, that was it, right? You know, you saw the effect this music can have, especially on your own mum, right? So that's where it first started. And like electronic music really was like, that was it, you know. And then from there, I got into music production. So I sort of like went to the dark side. So I was learning like instruments. And then I sort of said to my parents one day, I was like, so I found this software that you can like make music. Actually, no, sorry. My dad had some software where you can, obviously it was called Sony Acid Music Studio.
Never heard of it before.
I don't even know if it still exists, but it was like,
okay.
yeah, but it was basically this,
Is it DAW?
Yeah, DAW. Yeah. So just like Logic or Ableton, you know.
Yeah.
And he sort of had it open for his music. And I was like, you know, what's that? And I was like, when I realized that you could put records together, basically without playing any instruments, you know, with samples and you know, that sort of thing, I was instantly hooked. Again, I was like, this is incredible. Like, you know, I got lost in it. I downloaded it myself, and I was, you know, that was like 12, 13. And I sort of stopped the traditional playing route. So, you know, still don't know how happy my parents are about this, but, you know, stop playing the piano, stop, you know, learning the guitar and this sort of thing. You know, I sort of went to that side, to music production.
Yeah.
And then the final thing was, I was looking at obviously all the big producers in the world that were, you know, making massive records. So like Swedish House Mafia, like obviously at that time, this was about 2010, 11. So this was kind of like that boom of,
oh, they were huge.
Yeah, Swedish House Mafia, Avicii, Calvin Harris in that era.
Yeah. It was like electro-y style,
progressive house, like
house and electro,
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Along with like MK, obviously he's been going since mid 90s, but like, you know, MK as well with Look Right Through. Obviously that was 2013ish, I think. So around that era, like all these in both house music and a little bit of like EDM and, you know, that sort of stuff coming through. And I was like, you know, these guys, like, you know, what they're on these massive stages, like from the music. It's like, what do they do? And then obviously they're all of them are DJs. They're all DJing.
Yeah.
So then I started investigating like DJing. Like, you know, obviously I realized that to be like them, I'd have to DJ as well as produce. And when I sort of went into the DJing world, again, I just instantly hooked, like absolutely fell in love with it. Like obviously the best, I mean, still think DJing best thing ever, you know, like what, you know, and that's it. So it kind of went from there. So started like putting some music out, and then eventually I got into clubs around when I was like 15, 16. They were like my first club gigs. Like I actually got paid to DJ in clubs, and then obviously that was about 11 years ago, and I've done it since then. That's it. That's all I've done ever since then. That's it. Mate, I think I've got everything. That's more or less the story.
That's a nice nutshell. You're probably going to talk for an hour about the whole thing in detail.
Yeah.
That's
I skipped over a few things, but that's
good context.
Oh, sorry. I'm just going to finish it. And then that was leading me to, this is the 90s video.
Right, yes.
So obviously,
which was when? Which was
so that
last
was,
year?
So I've been putting out videos on social media for around 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But that was obviously a big one. That really sort of changed the game. That one came from, in terms of like the 90s thing, right? So it's like 90s dance music.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a moment where, so, you know, I've been a DJ for 10, well, at that point, 10 years, 11 years. And I was like, and I was basically like, okay, so I've got to a point now where, you know, I've played, so over my DJing as a resident DJ over that time period, like I was playing in nightclubs. So not necessarily like bars, pubs, etc. Like it was, you know, doors open at 11 p.m, close at 4, 5 a.m, whatever. Like it was nightclubs. And it was like, I'd done a fair few nightclubs. I'd done a lot of them, you know, and it was like, you know, what's the next thing? And obviously I was sort of thinking back to the music and the sounds that like really got me into DJing and electronic music in the first place, which was that CD that I used to listen to in the car and my mum used to dance to it, right? It was that music from 95 to 2005.
This episode is sponsored by Streamline Studios.
You know when me and Jackie started Bear Chat, George?
Yep.
We thought it'd be simple, but in reality, it's quite a lot. The editing, adjusting the cameras, the lighting.
Doing it by yourself is kind of impossible, but that's why we've set this place up. I'm over there, I'm handling the live edit, so I'm mixing all the cameras together whilst you chat, following the conversation.
Yeah, and for me, that's why Streamline Studios has been an absolute game changer, because we come, we record, it's all done, plugged onto the hard drive and ready to go when we leave.
For people that might be listening, that have thought about doing a podcast, they've got an idea, they've got a conversation they want to have, come and try it out.
If you want to get into podcasting, don't sit back and just wait. Come down to Streamline Studios and it's all edited live. You can publish your episodes as soon as you leave.
And listeners of this show will get 25% off their first booking. Quote BEAR25 at checkout.
And obviously everything that came after that, with obviously what I mentioned when it went into progressive house and everything we talked about.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, just thinking back to that music was what actually got me into it. And so that was the first thing. And obviously the next thing was, which we'll probably come on to, which is, well, I know we've spoken about this on DMs, I think, which is about obviously the state of what's happened with nightclubs.
Yeah,
in the
I really want to speak to you about this.
We'll definitely get into that, yeah.
100%.
So obviously that, as you'd expect, obviously again, I've been a resident DJ, 11 years, it's all I've done. I'm so in that world. It's all I know. It's my world. Specifically nightclubs, because obviously I've only done nightclubs. I've not done the early doors kind of events and spaces. My thing is my speciality was nightclubs, 11 till 4 a.m, right? Which is exactly the venues that have suffered the most. So I really, I'm so in that, and so that was happening at the same time as well. This was started about 2-3 years ago, this whole massive shift that obviously, I'm keen to know what your thoughts are on this as well.
Yeah.
And I sort of was like, when you look at the records that DJs I know are playing, and I was playing because I had to, when I've always followed all the nightclubs of different styles around the country. So, even the more underground ones and the more like commercial high street ones, etc. And the music, when you look at the music that built the nightclubs in the early 90s. So if you think like Ministry of Sound opened in 1991, and obviously when you go back and, I mean, you probably know all this already, but when you go back and do the research, like obviously you had the illegal raves first, and then
It started
with the raves.
There's nowhere for people to go to do this.
Yeah. There's nowhere for people to go to experience the music and have that atmosphere and that do it.
And let's be honest, it also was it was based around the drug scene as well.
Exactly. Yeah,
you have acid house, you had the rise of ecstasy and all that stuff. And then it was just these huge warehouses where people were just congregating in thousands to experience this pure hedonism that like no one was allowed to do in a regular venue. And that's kind of the origin of it. Yeah,
totally. And then, and then when you think of, the clubs like Ministry of Sound, 1991, there was a few factors, but one of the main reasons all those clubs opened was because the government obviously didn't want people raving illegally in fields and causing trouble. They need to be in controlled spaces. And that's what birthed these clubs, right? So, and then that music built, like the music that came with it, all the records that we've already talked about, like that built these nightclubs. And when you look at some of the nightclub spaces around the country now and around the world, the truth of it is a lot of that obviously those records, some of them are 30 years old, so you're not going to be playing the same records, but the style and the feeling and what that music, house music, definitely trance music,
100%.
The list goes on. It's not as present anymore in these nightclubs. Now I know, obviously, fully aware that there's lots of factors, which again we can get into, about like why a lot of these nightclubs have closed. There's obviously like how expensive it is, like the cost of it, changing in culture, like people's what they want to do has changed that as well. But I do think there's a really big element that I don't think has been talked about enough, which is that the music that was like fueling the opening of these clubs, as well as obviously there was like drug use involved as well and all that sort of stuff as well, don't get me wrong, but the records that came with that whole movement, they really, they're I mean, people still, they call them timeless records for a reason, right? They're still timeless now. and some of the house music and electronic dance music it's not as present in the nightclubs as much as it was.
Well,
Let me comment on this. Can you see what I'm getting at? You see what I'm getting at?
I want to comment on this because I had this thought literally, I think it was maybe last Thursday. I was doing the dishes and I was looking out in the garden. I can't remember what was on. It was like we have the little radio behind us and they were playing something. I can't remember what it was, Robin S or something like a classic. And I was thinking, what are the classics? In 30 years' time, I can't remember what I was said the years, but I was like, when I'm older, right? What are going to be the classics? Because I've been hearing classics. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about them. I've been listening to the classics since I was like 15, 16, and I'm 36 now, and they're still classics. When are the more recent tracks that have been made in the last, say, decade? When are they? What tracks are those that are going to be classed as timeless records? Because I mean, I even look at my own music. I didn't like producing, right? I wasn't really into producing as much as I like DJing. And which is why I found it funny, not to digress too much, but you said that you were producing, you were like looking at people and going, how do I get there? Oh, I've got a DJ. For me, it was like, oh, I'm a DJ. How do I get there? I've got to start making fucking music, right? So it was a very similar thing, but like the opposite side. But yeah, that I've had this thought many times of like, what music have I heard in the last 10 years that is going to stand the test of time? And I don't actually know. I don't know the answer to it.
There will be records, 100%, you know, that are going to, people will look back on in 20, 30 years time fondly and they'll, you know, they were the records that I went out to. Don't get me wrong, but I think, I'm just trying to articulate it better, right? Is there's certain genres of music, pop music, country music, you know, even music that isn't electronic dance music that is great music. I generally love all music, honestly. Like, you know, I listen to everything, you know, and it serves its purpose and it's great in certain settings, but I think it's a problem in the culture of nightclubs, culture in general, that some of these records from other genres, they shouldn't really be being played. They shouldn't be being played in nightclubs as like a given, as a standard. If you think about, and I'm talking about, again, I'm really talking about nightclubs here, because you think about what, you know, the nightclubs that opened in the 90s, like part of that whole movement of why they were built was from rave culture, and that's how these nightclubs were formed, and why they, you know, ended up existing. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Okay,
you see the kind of angle that I'm kind of coming at.
I see where you're going with this, and I actually had a point to speak about something. Let me see if I'm getting this right. I wrote down here, I saw a video last week. I actually shared it. You might have seen it, you might not have. But there was, and I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to mention the club. But there was an artist playing. The song sounded like something I'd hear in a tapas restaurant. And there was about 3,000 kids, not one of them dancing. All phones in the air. Now, the phone thing, we'll have a discussion about that if you want.
Definitely. That's fine.
Forget about phones, but just stood, right? The DJ was dancing the most out of everyone in that room. And I remember just thinking, that's not what it used to be. But at the same time, I also think, to be devil's advocate, I think that's a different thing. Like, that's not... We have different genres, right? If you're going to go and you want to, like, for example, 2 weeks ago, I went to Fold in London. Have you been to Fold before? I've
heard of it. I've not been, but...
It's right next to 93 Feet East. It looks like it's a... Not very nasty Fold. It's fucking amazing. The sound's incredible. It's a long room. These tiny thin windows. You can see the sun coming through. It looks like you're in jail, right? It's just no frills. Few lights, but just unbelievable sound, and it's techno, right? They just don't fuck about.
Wicked.
And I went to that venue because I knew what to expect. I knew I didn't know who the artist was. My friends went to techno, but he was like, "Come, this is going to be amazing." So went and seen this guy. He played all night. Donny Dozzy or something. Played all night, 6 hours. It was all night. It was like 3 or 4 till 10. It was like a day party. But I went there. I knew what the crowd was going to be like, because they're not going to. You won't get any riffraff going in. You've got to actually, as in riffraff, you won't get any people who are just going to strolling off the street. You've got to actually get a taxi to there. It's miles away, right? The music's going to be techno, so you're not going to get people going in here listening to, you know, genres which we're kind of discussing. But then you've also got these big clubs who, if they're going to book an artist and they're going to sell tickets, it's all about bums on seats, right? And some of these clubs will, if they're going to sell 5,000 tickets for someone who's hot.
So I'm so happy you brought this story up that you're telling me, right? Because this is when I should have mentioned it in what I just said, which is this move to the underground.
Right.
If you look at how strong, I'm not talking about the whole spectrum here. Like if you look at how strong, I think that the house music scene at the moment is so healthy, and the underground is like super healthy at the moment. I think. Obviously, we could talk. Let's talk about the phone discussion. Is another one we definitely want to get into.
We'll come to that later.
Comes out
that's
a few people
digression.
some people have criticisms of that, don't they, and all that sort of thing. But generally speaking, you know, if you look at, look at Ibiza for example. Like Universe just opened. That is obviously ex-privileged site. Like that is a huge space, and it's full. Like they're filling it.
It's more than full.
It's more than full.
My mates,
and
so can't move.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And that is, they've got plenty of underground artists in there. You know, house DJs, techno DJs, etc.
We've got
right?
Carl and Nick playing back to back. Like they have proper, real, good music. There.
Exactly.
Yeah. Of course.
You know, so and then if you look at some of if you go now just back to the UK, like if you look at some of the raves around the country that are happening, so like a great example is Josh Baker and Max Dean and these guys with that sort of minimal crossover to deep house sort of sound. Like these guys are putting on pop-up events and events. They sell out in minutes. Minutes is how quickly they're selling out these events, which is just so impressive. And
is that underground now though? This is my argument.
This is the way it gets. Obviously, there's because obviously when it becomes so popular, it's not underground anymore, right? Like it's. But I'm saying, but if you listen to their music, the music is underground house music.
Yeah.
You know, and I love it, and it's great, and that's why the scene's so healthy because those events are selling out. So for those guys, they're smashing it. Yeah. It's great. What I was just referring to is I'm talking about the club that you'll find on the high street of towns and cities around the country. I'm not talking about specific events. They're doing really well at the moment. Okay. And I'm talking about like the club you'll go to and it's in the middle of the town.
Yeah.
Or that high street. So it's a nightclub that plays what people are into musically. And I remember when I started, you know, again, DJing in about 2014, 13, right? So you had there was definitely deep house that was present in like the most huge, and definitely big room EDM that was present. And progressive house was also there with against Swedish House Mafia and stuff like that. And I still vividly remember DJing that kind of music in nightclubs. And you'd have this thing where people would wait for the drop, like an incredible build up, and they'd wait to jump on the drop. Like they count like 3, 2, 1, everyone start jumping and like bouncing, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at from your normal nightclub around in towns and cities around the country, like those moments don't happen anymore. They don't exist. If you look at a lot of the videos, like it just, and bear in mind the videos you see from nightclubs on social media are the best bits of the night, remember? Like they're always the highlights. Yeah. You don't actually see that anymore, like those kind of moments, very rarely, unless you go to the underground parties where, well, obviously we'll talk about where they go there because they're massive now, but that's why the underground has become so strong, because everyone is in there for those specific moments and that music where they feel relaxed and loose enough to do that and let go and get like crazy, like hands up and shirts off, whatever. Like, the list goes on. Like sweaty, like that's what. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm massively out the loop with this because you seem like you've got your finger on the pulse a little bit more with these high street nightclubs. Because
my thing, obviously you might work down. I think people that when they look at me, they can see it. I've kind of got my thing. It's kind of in both worlds. Yeah. I've got like one foot in both. Yeah. So I'm yeah. So like I understand the underground and house music and the stuff that's happening at the moment, but also I've had this experience of commercial high street nightclubs for 10 years where I can see what the people that aren't ravers, like aren't like properly into like, you know, real diehard house heads, etc., that I've seen what they like. So my thing, as it always has done, is kind of in both. So I have this perspective where I can see both, and I can see how strong parts of the scene are it's specifically the underground. It's difficult to like really pin it down, but you know what I mean? It's like, do you get what I'm saying?
I completely understand what you're saying, but it was hard to get the context because I don't know anything about that world, right?
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
so
that's my insight.
That's why I like fucking doing this, because I get to learn shit, right?
Yeah.
But I that makes sense, and I actually think that I didn't think that the underground was that strong, but I think me being out of the scene or out of that industry for some time, I hate fucking using the word scene, but being out of that industry for some time, apart from having these conversations with people like you, which I get to like, you know, again, keep my toe just in the water a little bit. I don't really know what's going on. I don't know what's hot, what's not, what's working. You know, like for example, this conversation about the underground being like really strong is interesting. Tell me a bit more about these high street clubs, because what's happening there now? What music is being played? Like what is it? What's happened? What's changed?
Well, there's I want to emphasize, because there'll be people that will watch this and they'll think, oh, it's not just, you know, because there are lots of factors.
Oh, mate, people are going to fucking say that about everything we say.
Yeah.
So
and I don't get it twisted. I'm not saying, because there's so many factors in terms of it is very expensive to run venues, any kind of venue at the moment, because of cost of living and you know what's happening. So that's the first thing. But with a lot of the high street nightclubs and venues, what my point I was making earlier is that when there's too much. Put it this way, I think that a lot of these high street nightclubs, they can learn a lot and should borrow a lot from what's happening in the more underground spaces.
Like for example?
Like music, because when you look. Even when I got into DJing around 2014, I've described what happened in the kind of atmospheres that was in the nightclubs at that point, and the music that was played. But obviously, even before those years, so like the mid 2000s, there would be a lot more in your high street nightclubs: house music, dance music, EDM, big room. Obviously, and the genres go on, right? So there was a lot more of that being played, and there's less of that being played now. There's a lot more pop music. Like
that's what I was asking. That's what I was getting at.
Lots of pop music, which
pop.
again, I don't want anyone to get anything twisted. That I love pop music. It's great. Like there's definitely a time and a place for it. It's fantastic music, but within the context of a nightclub, that's what I noticed that started happening around 2022.
Yeah,
start 2022, where not just in the clubs that I go to DJ at, but all around, because I was following everything from around the country, and you'd see like the music. It just. The music that was being played was not the music that built these places, that built these huge nightclubs in your towns and cities around the country.
Isn't that going to change though? Isn't that going to naturally progress? Like music changes all the time. It's like fashion.
Yeah. I'm hopeful that it's going to change, definitely. And I think that when you look at what MK's just done with Dior, for example, like that is a straight up. It's got a vocal on it, and it's got definitely like it can appeal to a lot of people. You know the record, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
So it can appeal to a lot of people, but that is a straight up house record with some deep house influences in it. There's no, and that's number one now, or it was number one. It got to number one.
Yeah.
So it's great, and that is just such an exciting thing to see for dance music, house music, electronic music. That hit number one. It's fantastic. So. I agree. There's definitely going to be some change happening. You know, no doubt. But just what you asked, like why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like that was the second reason. Was like just because to really champion electronic dance music and like house music, especially, and obviously, you know, talking and integrating that golden era from the 90s, where it all started.
Yeah.
And when in that era, clubs like, again, 1991 Ministry of Sound opened, and all these other nightclubs, that's when it started. That's when this whole thing started.
Yeah.
Because of what I was seeing with like the changing culture, where I'll give you a better example. It's like a real example. Now I remember me and lots of other resident DJs at the time around the country. We'd start, the doors would open at 11, and you'd start with house music, right? You start with some rollers, maybe like tech house, or whatever, like just vibes. Nothing. Obviously, you're going to save all the big records for later on in the night for 1, 2 a.m. The equivalent of the headline slot. You save them till 1, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I remember we and me and other DJs would start with house music. And I remember it was around 2022, and other DJs I know around the country was also feeding this back, and you'd be playing house music at the start of the night, and people always used to come in for the last 7 or 8 years, and they'd be grooving, dancing straight away, just like simple, minimal, like kind of style of house music, right? And they just get grooving, they'd lock in, and you can start taking you on that journey. And me and others noticed that they weren't doing it anymore. They weren't dancing anymore. Suddenly the whole vibe had changed, and they weren't. You know what I'm saying?
And music,
and because changes in culture, like people, and the reason why is because they weren't. It's again, when I look at like, you know, MK and what he's done and this, and Josh Baker and these guys, you know, like the list goes on. It's difficult to mention even guys like Fisher we can come on to, and Chris Lake, what they're doing in the States, like they're pushing house music and stuff really well, and they have done. They've exploded it. They brought house music to the main stages effectively, and what they did, you know, 2017, 18, and all that stuff is amazing. And like, you know, that I think, especially in the UK, for the masses, has been lost a little bit. I'm hopeful with it coming back. With again, Ed Dior just hit #1, but that was lost a little bit in the. I'm not talking about underground raves. I'm not talking about raves or specific events. I'm talking about your high street nightclubs around the country. The masses, the mainstream, it was lost a little bit. That because they're not being fed the music as much through social media or culturally, they're not like experiencing the music as much. And that's why I was even more motivated to start doing what I've done, because I do feel quite strongly that we, or as in like the electronic dance music scene, house music, like we need to put out the best records we possibly can, do the best social media we possibly can, be as present in culture as we possibly can, however that happens, in order to make sure the music like continues and lives on for another 30, 40 years, which it is. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm saying like we need to do that. That's sort of why I started doing that, because the last thing, I'm rambling.
No, please. No, this is great. No, go on.
But because the final thing, and the reason why is because music's obviously consumed by Spotify now. Yeah. People got playlists, and they know what artists they like and stuff. And you've got to think of effectively Spotify is almost like a supermarket shelf. Like when you go on, you search on Spotify, your average consumer, they have a choice of which artists are they going to listen to. So they might type in, if we look at pop music, they might type in Taylor Swift. They might type in Drake. They might type in Michael Jackson. They might, whatever, like the list goes on. But we, like in electronic dance music and house music, need to make sure that they're typing in producers and DJs making great electronic music. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but I have a counter to that. But because I think what made dance music special to me when I started listening, maybe 2008, 2009, when I got my first decks, and I started going to little parties, which by the way don't exist hardly anymore. These small mid-tier 400-500 cap venues, right? Yeah. Where you'd have 2 or 3 mid-tier artists playing and headlining the show.
They're the best kind of parties, by the way.
They are the best kind of parties. I mean, George from SOS, right? And I know Majestic's getting involved in all the SOS stuff as well, the Save Our Scene things. Big up, George.
Again, they're a little bit similar to what I'm doing in a way, and I love what they're doing, by the way. But sorry, go on.
No, it's great, and it's great. You know, big up to those guys. What they're doing is really important, and it just plays into what you were saying, is that what those guys are trying to do and trying to emphasize is the fact that because of the difficulty in either running a club, you know, how expensive it is to go out, all these things have affected small grassroots venues. And you have this massive disparity between the pubs and the bars where I started in, like DJing in a fucking bar with 100 people, to these 15,000 capacity, I don't know, fucking whatever they are, massive parties with Chris Stussy and all those guys. You've got this massive gap where it's so hard to get involved. But sorry, coming back to what I was saying, I quite like the fact that I was going to this party at this club, which none of my other mates kind of knew about, and I've got this group of pals who I've met on the dance floor, and there was something special about that. So I understand what you're saying, but I also almost feel like I had to work my ass off at the time because social media wasn't as like in our faces. I had to work so hard to find out who the artists are, who's good at DJing at 3 a.m. and who's a good warm-up artist and all these things. And it was like I felt I was in some sort of secret society.
Yeah, man, definitely.
And I love that about it. So I completely see what you're saying, but I also kind of love the idea of someone having to hustle like fuck to find the music. I've got this like, I'm kind of on the fence a little bit.
It's great that, again, some of that culture now, literally in the last year or so, is coming back really strong with the pop-up thing, which is very similar. I don't know, you might agree or not, but that's very similar to the illegal rave days. Where it's like, okay, so they know there's a pop-up happening and they're going to get the location 30 minutes before, just like they used to get the text in the legal rave days.
Oh, like go to the phone booth.
Yeah, the phone booth.
Yeah,
but like,
you call the number and it's like,
It's almost like the new kind of social media-y, new generation version of that, where it's like, okay, you have to be in this area of London in 30 minutes time, and then we're going to tell you where to go. So then suddenly everyone's like, MK did it. Funny we keep mentioning MK. He did it.
Big up Mark. He's a good lad.
he did it. I think it was this weekend just gone.
I saw it. You posted, didn't you?
I think I might have reposted it.
It looked like in like a trailer. It looked like it was in a trailer under a bridge or something. Was it in London?
Yeah, something like London, obviously, because Dior went number one. So he did like a pop-up, and obviously it was insane. Obviously, you saw the videos. Like,
mate,
the police came up, had to shut it down. just like they did.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
100%.
like that is 100%. So exciting to see, because that is almost like that era coming back in a new way.
Yeah.
You know, and the best thing that I love about that as well, when you look at some of these pop-up events like I've just described, you look at the crowd, most of them are like 18, 19. They are the
young
kids of today, which is just so great to see. So it sounds. It sounds like I'm a bit doom and gloomy. I'm really not. I'm just saying it's so. A lot of the scene is so. I know, sorry, I don't like that word, but like it's so healthy.
No, it's
it really
valid.
is.
Again,
I, as I said before, I have that because of last, what I've done. I have like my foot in both worlds. I can see how strong the scene is, the underground scene is.
Yeah.
But I also am in that world of the more commercial side and the masses, and seeing, your local nightclub and what is in popular culture as well. And I've just seen it over the years where there was these huge moments for electronic dance music in popular culture, like with the Avicii thing in Swedish House Mafia, like in 2014, and then obviously the 90s. Obviously that goes back, saying where it really crossed over into popular culture in such a big way that everyone was listening to it. I think I'm sort of you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%. I'm locked in. I'm loving seeing someone discuss both sides, because I usually sit here and I'll speak to, we had Ronnie Spiteri on, we've had list of like Roger Sanchez. I had loads of different people on, right? But people who are locked into like one style. Now, it's good to have your finger on the pulse, but you see, because you're actually in it, you're actually in both sides. You've got this perspective, which I think is quite unique and quite useful for you. So you're seeing both sides of the fence, which most people who are locked in, you have to be dialed into like one side, right? Or you're
in minimal, or you're in tech, or you're in whatever.
I'm not knocking anyone. Like, I can't imagine like sitting here with Rossi or someone like that, or any of these guys like Josh Baker or anything. They're so locked in and so like they're smashing it in their lane.
They're really smashing
sticking
it,
in their lane.
Those guys,
That's another thing, man. I just feel like music changed so much from when I started releasing I was listening to some of my old tracks from like 2014, 15. I'm like, fuck, this is slow. I can't listen to this. Like, it was so slow, but it was so relevant at the time.
Yeah.
And now everything, it's like, especially in the underground scene, all this like Dutch sound, it's very fast and quick, and like 134, 136 is like 132, 134 is like, it's fast. But it's great, and it's fresh, and I love it. And you know what? We'll probably sit here in a few years' time, and the music will be completely different again.
Yeah, totally.
But I think this conversation is important, and I think some of the clips we'll obviously put out specifically on what you're saying about having this view on the high street kind of thing, because I have no fucking idea.
And the reason I'm saying that is because I want electronic dance music to be as big as possible. Obviously, I'm playing a very small part in it, but that's what I love. I love it, more than anything, and I want it to be as big as possible. And so, and I think it's so important to have it in the more commercial clubs as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been to a few friends, you know, just residences and gigs, you know, recently, and you'll have kids in the crowd holding up phones saying Chris Stussy or Rossi or something like that.
Dear.
Yeah.
Fuck, I didn't know that.
And then you know you know, I was sticking on and play it. Like, they go nuts. It's crazy.
That's interesting.
But I want it to be the whole crowd, and it's like you can tell it's just like a very passionate group of lads or girls, like girls or guys, whatever. Like, you know, they really love that sound right now, and yeah, like it's almost like, you know, they're going crazy, but the rest of the club isn't really feeling it because they're not aware of it, and it's like I think personally, like in terms of the commercial nightclubs and nightclubs all around the country. Like, again, I always like to think of it as like you go to a town or a city and you go on the high street, that club. Like, there'll be different names.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Like that club. Like, we want to try and try our best to get dance music in those clubs. That's what I'm trying to say.
There'll be a lot of people who argue with you and go, this it does that makes it less special for these clubs.
I agree. Yeah. Well, this obviously this is the battle, isn't it? Because like once, as you mentioned earlier, like, well, you know, when these guys that we just mentioned in sort of like that, what do you call it? It's like minimal tech, right? Minimal deep tech. Like, so it just
changed so much.
It changed.
Yeah, minimal for sure.
So, you know, again, we talk about these guys, you know, Chris Stussy, Rossi, Josh Baker, Max Dean, Luke Dean, etc. Like, these guys, like, they're so big now.
Huge.
It's
actually
like
massive.
So they're massive, and it's like, and as you said rightly, so like their music is underground, but are they underground now? Because there are people, as I just said, like story of when I saw one of my friends doing his residency. Yeah. They're huge. Like, the masses know them.
Mate,
you know,
fees
which is crazy.
These guys are getting, like, it's like superstar level fees.
Yeah.
So that's like,
yeah,
it throws a spanner in the works in terms of like defining what is underground and what is commercial, and when that crossover happens, is there a crossover? Because it's so popular.
Yeah.
It's so popular. It's very tricky. But mate, I don't think you have a problem. I think, especially the last few years, where like I think I heard Chris Lake on. Was it Capital?
Legend, absolute legend.
Oh yeah, mate. Like, he's done so much house music.
Ever.
Yeah, absolutely. But Chris Lake was on, I think it was on Capital, and he was talking about that him and Fish would like discussed, or they managed to get dance music on the main stage. Was it Glastonbury or was it?
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah,
well, they did.
You touched on it. Yeah. So that happened. That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
In popular like sentiment in terms of what that music is.
That is a great example. Remember, that was when that happened, and Fish obviously did losing it, you know, and when that moment happened with those guys, that was actually 2017-18.
Right, before everything,
this is, you get ready for this one, this is scary. That was 7 years ago. Yeah.
It freaks me out.
So, so, you know, that was 7 years ago, and that is a prime example of what I'm talking about, where they took what is effectively underground dance music and they built it up to be what it was. And I know it does get difficult because then it becomes like not underground and stuff, but I'm saying that the music itself was loved. It still is. But that was such a big moment.
I don't think you need to worry, mate.
Yeah.
I honestly, I understand what you're saying. I understand you're saying not concerns, but your points that you're making based on
those moments need to keep happening.
100%
for all of us.
Yeah.
The scene. Honestly,
but the way, no,
saying that word.
The way things, from my outside perspective, again, you know, not finger on the pulse, just having conversations like this, checking social media. I see dance music in general growing. The underground thing was a bit, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from in terms of how the underground is growing, if you're going to use like the guys we've spoke about as an example. But I don't think you need to worry. I think those moments will come back around. I think so. Like fashion, it does go in cycles, and there'll be moments, there might be years where there might be a lull, or there'll be a genre that comes through into nightclubs where DJs think it's hot to play this music, and it isn't. And after 6 months, it'll fall out of fashion and something else will come back around. But I have faith, I think, and I think people like you, if you keep doing what you're doing, mate.
Well, this is why I'm doing it, because, you know, I don't think there really is there's not much better than those parties that you talked about, where, you know, you're in a room, sweaty, with your mates.
Melting. Top off at the end, like disgusting.
With your mates.
Yeah, all hugging, sweating on each other, mate.
Arms around each other.
The best.
Like, they are the moments that are the best ever. And also, I think, to take it one step further, I know I'm taking it far, but you know, when you're growing up, they're moments that I think kids need those moments. They're important to shape you as a person, as a kid, and that having that bond with mates and just having that life experience instead of being inside. Like, you need those moments. So yeah, that was a big thing for me when I saw that shift happening. And because I just think that's important. I really do think that's so important. Whoever you like to just, even if it's just once, you just got to experience it once. Like just because
dingy club. Don't give a fuck what you've got on. Like a t-shirt and jeans. Who gives a fuck? No one cares. It's pitch black. Like, just try and picture this. I remember going in 2 weeks ago at the Fold, and we got one round of drinks, right? I got whiskey and soda, and I had that drink, and I didn't have another drink all night. And we had a locker, we had bananas in there, like we were just stocked up on fuel and like like let's fucking go. And the music was so good, it carried us all the way through. And I don't go out that often. I go out like twice a year now, right?
Same.
But I picked those moments, right, because they have to be meaningful, and like you've got to find the right group of people, find the right venue, and just and listen, whatever fucking music you listen to, like you said, you like all music, whatever music you listen to, just make sure you're enjoying it in good company. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Good company, good music. It doesn't fucking matter if you're enjoying yourself. Who gives a fuck?
But those moments and that cultural thing, you know, it's not just it's obviously we're very good at it, I think, in the UK, doing that. But it's obviously it's a global thing. That thing of getting loose, you know, getting crazy with your mates, you know, and arms around each other and having a great time. Like, that is an important culture thing that we need to hold on to. Which is why obviously it's always concerning when you look at like the nightclubs. But why partly, and one of the reasons again why it motivated me to sort of really do the whole, you know, push. Just try and bring awareness to like the whole dance music scene as a whole. I mean, I think because it's intrinsically linked with that. They're one and the same thing. Yeah. You know, ever since 1989, maybe a bit before, like it's been intrinsically linked with that. You know, it's the same thing. So
there'll be some kids, right, who, you probably know this already, who didn't listen to house music or didn't listen to 90s dance music, right? And saw your video, millions of people, right?
This is exactly
and they've gone onto YouTube and they put that in, and then they've gone next video, and then they found another track that they've never heard before. Yeah. So what you're doing is exactly
the best thing I saw was when obviously once the social media went crazy, we started doing shows, and started doing we did a show at Egg. In London, obviously, you know, but
great venue,
London,
I play all the time.
And I remember, you know, sort of turning up to this show, and I was absolutely buzzing. I was like, you know what, this is. I've done a few before that, and I remember this one came up, and I looked out into the crowd, and I thought, because of obviously I've been championing a lot of the sounds of like the 90s, 2000s so much in my stuff. It's like maybe the crowd's going to be perhaps on like the older side, generally speaking, in terms of
Egg can be a little bit older, I think.
And I looked out, and the front row they were all 18, 19, 20.
I saw a video, proper high energy video you put up. Yeah, I've seen it,
all of them. The front row were all 18, 19, 21. They were obviously, there was a wide, I want to emphasize, there's a wide range of ages. It's not like, you know, that, which is great. That's why I love my shows at the moment, because it's just such a wide range of people. But I was expecting there to be no 18, 19, 21, and there was. Front row, going nuts. So like all this music, and I was like, yes, like this. I was like,
it's working.
This is what I was working towards, and it's worked. Like, I was like, this is great.
Keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is great. Now I've had this conversation, what you're doing makes a lot more sense to me.
You get it, yeah.
Because I mean, it was fun to watch on social media, but now I've got
but it's not. That's the thing. I think people do get it twisted. It's like it's not just like a fun thing on social media. Like, I'm doing it like for a reason. Like, I'm that. Which is what I've just described to you. Yeah. And it's like, sometimes it does make me laugh when I look at some of the comments, and it's like...
don't look at the comments.
Don't look at the fucking comments. It's hard not to.
Ever.
It's hard not to.
Don't look at the comments, bro. It's fucking... A lot of them are keyboard warriors. Like, if you have such a big reach... I know it's easier said than done, but if you have such a big reach, you're going to get a load of fucking idiots. I had Screaming here, man, like 3 weeks ago, and he was saying that he'd have 100 nice things said about him, and that one thing.
Oh yeah, always
piss him off for like a week,
yeah.
and I'm like, don't read the comments. Don't read the comments.
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
No, we're not going to finish the pod on a bad note. So fuck the comments off. Fuck you, bad commenters. Anyway, mate, before we wrap up, thanks for so much coming down,
mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I've had such a good time. Is anything you want to mention? Anything you got coming up, exciting, or anything at all you want to finish on?
I've got a show in London. I'm not sure when this is going out, but August the 24th.
Night Tales, is it?
Night Tales, yeah. Doing Night Tales in London, August 24th. So that is looking crazy. Like, that's going to be so much fun. I think there could be some all these moments we just spoke about, I think this could be a really special one, I think. So yeah, that, if it comes out in time. And yeah, obviously got some also original music coming out as well, which I'm super excited to get out. So keep an eye out for that. That's it. That's what I'm working on at the moment.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Right. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.